Greetings folks, Iolair here. Today's replay is courtesy of a brand new guest to the channel, so I'm very pleased to introduce DustRhino, who is sailing for us the Tier 10 Soviet battleship Kremlin in a ranked battle from this last season of Ranked that was played in arms race mode. This particular match is being played on Trident. There are 3 battleships, 3 cruisers, and 1 destroyer on each team. Now, DustRhino is working his commander toward a classic tank concealment build, currently with 14 points. Now, kind of an interesting backstory with DustRhino. He is a cruiser main, and I gather he elected to play battleship for some of the ranked season. In fact, I think he said he started with the Republic and then decided to switch over to the Kremlin for this match. So this is, I believe, the first match he had in the Kremlin in a ranked battle, and it is a very, very good outing. Kremlin's pushing up here towards this first capture point objective. The provides a heal buff. In fact, once we do get this buff, we're going to get that little message in the middle of the screen that says press H to get a list of buffs. And unfortunately, I cannot make that go away. So we'll just have to tolerate it being there most of the time. First salvo out here on the Yoshino lands a single shell, but unsurprisingly, it's a Citadel. Because the Yoshino is very squishy, and these 457 millimeter shells from the Kremlin are pretty potent. That last salvo was a little bit behind on the Zhao, but still got a couple of overpens and a pen. Going to go back out to the Yoshino here, who's taking a little more damage. I don't remember how much he gets on this shot. I think it's only an overpen. Now, I think at this point, DustRhino realizes he's probably a little overextended, and it's going to pull back here. And I could definitely tell as I was watching this replay that there are points where his sort of cruiser instincts start kicking in, and he starts playing a little further from the objective in order to work targets of opportunity. That isn't necessarily a bad thing to do either, because he is going to have a couple of allies that will overextend and will get focused out early. In fact, the Allies are going to lose the Smolensk that is south of the central part of the map first, giving the opposing team first blood here in not too long. Looks like the opponents are mostly here on sort of the northeast side of the map. And again, I think this is a good idea at this point for DustRhino to be backing off a little bit. 3 bounces against the angled Montana there, but it is a good idea for him to sort of pull back here a little bit. He does thankfully have his allied Shimakaze out in front of him to provide spotting and hopefully relatively early detection of torpedoes. The Yoshino can carry 20-kilometer torpedoes, which most players I think do, and the Zhao can carry 12-kilometer torpedoes, so he has to be a little bit careful about how aggressively he pushes in here with some potential torpedo spammers. We do know that the opposing destroyer, the Grozovoy, is over on the west side of the map, so he doesn't have to worry about that right now. There is an allied Des Moines that's southeast of the Grozovoy's position. I don't in fact, I know that the Grozovoy gets out, but the Des Moines, I think, is going to be a little too aggressive in this game, trying to stay in the center of the map in order to leverage his radar, and would probably be better served being a little further back. See some fire going out from the Zhao toward, I believe, the Smolensk, and in fact, like I said, the Allied Smolensk here in his current position is going to go down very shortly, giving the opposing team first blood. The opposition does have a point lead here, even though they don't currently have the ship lead, because they grabbed some of the buffs earlier than the Allies did, so that they have gotten out to a little bit of a lead, but it's certainly manageable at this point. Do you see the Smolensk there on the far left-hand side of the screen? He's down to about a third of his health. Some pretty long range gunnery here. Few overpens. The Kremlin is better known for working at mid range. That's probably within the 12 to 15 kilometer ranges. Beyond that, the dispersion becomes less reliable. But once you're working within close to mid range, the accuracy is actually quite good. This dispersion is actually pretty solid at 17 kilometers. I think he just gets one he does get one pen on the Zhao. That was probably aimed a tad high in order to clear the island, but at least he was able to get some damage in. Now, the Shimakaze, again, I'm going to call out here. He's actually in a relatively good position, not only to provide spotting, but to provide sort of perpendicular torpedo strikes against this column of opponents that are north on the north side of the map. I don't know in this match whether what range torpedoes the Shimakaze was using. Generally, the 12 kilometer torpedoes are probably the most popular. 20 kilometer torpedoes are also quite popular as well. 8 kilometers probably would not be advisable. We do take down the Zhao, so now the teams have evened up the ship count, and then then the opposing Smolensk takes down one of the Montana, or the Montana on DustRhino's team. So the opponents have gotten another ship lead. So yeah, the Shimakaze, I don't know what range torpedoes he's using, but he's doing a good job, like I said, keeping things spotted, going after these buff objectives when he can. He is going to grab one that will improve reload further. So the Allies have one heal and one reload buff, and they're going to pick up another reload. Now the Kremlin has a rather, in fact, we just mentioned it, he just got the Seizda buff. So the the Kremlin is known for having a quite long reload on its guns. I believe it's 33 seconds base before main battery modification 3 is applied, which is what DustRhino is using here. But picking up these reload buffs are definitely going to make him even more effective. In fact, there they just picked up a third one. So the Shimakaze is kind of moving from east to west, sweeping up some of these buffs as he can. Now, the Allies did lose their Des Moines that was over more on the west side of the map that I mentioned earlier. Again, I kind of felt like he was trying to be too aggressive in his position, and there's sort of this rotation, if you will, of opponents and allies sort of counterclockwise around the map. Now, the big issue right now for the Allies is going to be the Kremlin that is in the center of the map. The Shimakaze, we don't see it here, but I expect, yeah, the Shimakaze is sending torpedoes on the Kremlin, but he's probably close enough that he's detected. And so he will likely take some fire. Yeah, in fact, he has dropped smoke to get himself into some concealment so that he avoids fire from both the Kremlin and the Yoshino. You see those torpedoes going out. I don't remember if he lands any on the Kremlin. I think he does, because the next time we see the Kremlin is quite low in health. So again, this is the place where I kind of saw that DustRhino's cruiser instincts were kicking in. He plays a lot of long-range artillery cruisers, and one of their strengths is being able to work on these sort of unguarded flanks, to be able to put in flanking fire on distracted targets. Yes, in fact, I mentioned the Kremlin did take a bunch of torpedoes, so he's down to about less than a third health. But again, coming back to DustRhino's positioning, he's been working sort of very patiently, working counterclockwise around the map, working from range. This is, for me, when I play long-range artillery cruisers, is very common. I think he's also made some smart choices not to push into aggressively, as the Allies did lose one of their battleships. They have lost two of their cruisers. In fact, they've lost... they've lost all three of their cruisers, I should say. And here DustRhino has a broadside position on the Kremlin. See some more torpedoes coming in from the Yoshino. And with this next salvo, he is going to finish off the Kremlin for his second kill of the game. And that's going to be really crucial in being able to get some center map control here, as he just earns high caliber, landing a couple more citadels. The Grozovoy here is actually quite wounded, so he should be the focus. And once the Allies do get this Grozovoy down, that will turn the game around. So one thing I should call out here is that the opponents actually had a fairly substantial lead. They were up 2 ships at one point, and thanks to this sort of flanking position that DustRhino's taken, he has helped take out the Kremlin with the assistance of the Shimakaze's torpedoes. He has just now finished off the Grozovoy, and that gives the Allies a ship lead. And with both of the other allies in the cap, they're denying the cap from the opposition. Here comes some more torpedoes from the Yoshino. This is really kind of the probably the biggest threat that DustRhino has at this point. But the Yoshino is quite close, and its armor profile is going to allow DustRhino to get in some significant damage here with, well, partly RNG, but also with well-aimed shots. This one, he starts cutting back out. He gets only a little bit of damage, some shatters. I'm wondering if he hit hit some of the turrets. That limited the amount of damage. We do have a full health Smolensk right now that we have to worry about. And obviously, the Smolensk has very, very high DPM. And so he could be a threat, certainly to the Shimikaze, although the Shimikaze is directly behind DustRhino, and also be a threat to the Conqueror. There he gets a reasonably decent salvo on the Yoshino. This one is only one overpen, which was a little bit frustrating, I imagine, because the shots looked pretty good. But with this next salvo that's going out from his front turrets, you can see the benefit of the reload that he's getting right now, because these guns are coming up much faster. His reload is probably below 25 seconds. Here he does finish off the Yoshino. That is definitely helping the team. Obviously, the Smolensk is now in a crossfire between the Conqueror and DustRhino. Dropping some smoke here from the Shimikaze here. I'm not sure if he got too close and it was detected by the Smolensk. Even more torpedoes from the Yoshino, which he's going to avoid. But things are looking pretty good now, because so long as they can get the Smolensk lit back up, he really doesn't have an opportunity to try to win this game for his team. 4 overpens. But that does earn DustRhino Confederate. So he's up to high caliber and Confederate, and he's got 4 kills. So now the only question is whether he's going to be able to finish off this Smolensk to earn himself a Kraken Unleashed in a 7 versus 7 format game. There, the Smolensk takes some significant damage from the Conqueror, and in fact his engine has been taken out. Here goes out the shot from DustRhino, and he is in fact going to finish off the Smolensk. So 207,000 damage even. 5 kills, so Kraken Unleashed, high caliber, and Confederate in a 7 versus 7 ranked battle here on Trident. So very well done, DustRhino. Very impressive, especially since this was your first game in the Kremlin in a ranked battle. So I hope everybody enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there on the virtual seas, and we wish you happy sailing.